Get this fake trash out of my hotel right now, before I call the police. The night manager's voice sliced through the luxury air of the Empire Lux Hotel like broken glass. Every guest in the marble lobby turned at once. Conversations stopped. Wine glasses froze mid-air, and the pianist's hands stilled above silent keys. The shout came again, louder this time, filled with disgust and certainty. He was pointing at a woman standing quietly at the counter, a woman in faded jeans, a gray hoodie, and worn sneakers, her hair tied back, her hands calm at her sides. To the crowd, she looked out of place. To him, she looked like trouble. And in the next 12 minutes, everyone inside that glittering lobby would learn exactly how wrong he was. Before we continue, tell me where you're watching from. Drop your city in the comments. Hit like if you believe dignity matters. And subscribe. Because what unfolded that midnight in the Empire Lux lobby would never be forgotten. It was close to midnight, and the Empire Lux lobby shimmered under chandeliers that looked like they belonged in a palace. Everything gleamed. The gold trims, the polished marble floors, the faint reflection of success on every surface. And walking through it all was Layla Thompson, a woman who carried herself with quiet purpose. She didn't dress like someone rich. She didn't need to. The scuffed sneakers, the weathered satchel, the tired hoodie, all part of a plan she had built for months. To the world, she was just another guest trying to find a room on a busy night. But in truth, Layla was the CEO and majority owner of Thompson Ventures, the billion-dollar company that had acquired the Empire Lux chain. She was the reason the logo on that front desk even existed. Yet tonight, she wasn't here as the owner. She was here undercover, following her gut after reading 62 discrimination complaints in just 4 months. She had seen the numbers, the drop in ratings, the tone of the guest reports, but numbers couldn't capture the truth. People could. And that's why she came without her assistants, without her car, without any hint of power. She came as a guest, a test. Behind the counter stood Ryan Mitchell, the night manager. He was in his early 40s, clean-cut, confident, and too comfortable in his own arrogance. Ryan had once lost a job after falling for a credit card scam. And since then, he treated everyone who didn't look the part as a suspect. To him, appearance meant trust, money meant respect. And when Layla handed him her sleek black card, his eyes narrowed instantly. "What's this supposed to be?" he asked, turning it between his fingers like it was a fake coin. "A platinum card? You? Please." He smirked, the kind of smirk that came easy to men who never feared consequences, without hesitation. He let the card fall to the floor and pressed his shoe over it. "You people never quit, do you? Always trying something." Gasps rose around the lobby, but no one spoke up. Layla's expression didn't change. Her eyes were steady, quiet, watching. "That's my reservation," she said softly. "Under the name Thompson." "Yeah?" Ryan leaned forward, voice dripping with sarcasm. "And I'm the president. Do yourself a favor, sweetheart. Get out before I call security." His tone made the word sweetheart sound poisonous. Just then, Isabel Morales, the assistant manager, approached. Sharp suit, red lipstick, and the tired hunger of someone desperate to be respected. "What's going on here?" she asked. Glancing between them, Ryan didn't hesitate. "Fake card, fake name, probably trying to scam her way into a suite." Isabel looked Layla up and down, the judgment immediate. "You'll need to show a valid ID," she said coolly. "We don't process stolen cards here." Layla kept her composure. "You're welcome to check your system. My reservation is confirmed." "Or," Isabel replied, folding her arms, "you can save us both time and leave." Behind the counter, a young clerk named Sofia Rivera tried to laugh it off, her nerves showing. "Maybe she's confused," she whispered to Isabel. People like her don't usually stay here." The words were quiet, but not quiet enough. Layla heard them. So did a businessman named Malik Carter, sitting by the bar. He looked up, frowned, and slowly began recording on his phone, nearby. Influencer Jasmine Lee had just finished a live stream about travel deals when the argument caught her attention. She tilted her phone toward the scene, whispered to her viewers, "You guys, you're not going to believe this," and went live again. 32 people were watching. Within minutes, it would be thousands. Layla didn't flinch. Her smartwatch was already recording. Every insult, every gesture, every face. Ryan motioned to a security guard, his patience thinning. "Security to the front desk. Now." He turned back to her, lips curling. "I don't care what name you made up. You don't belong here." The room was silent except for the hum of the chandelier lights. Layla didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. "You're making a mistake," she said, her tone calm and deliberate. "Am I?" Ryan chuckled. "Then prove me wrong. Show me something real. Or get out." Just then, the elevator chimed and Officer Delgado entered, a uniformed police officer responding to Ryan's call. Ryan stepped aside quickly, pretending to be the victim. "Officer, thank God. We've got a scammer here, refusing to leave, probably carrying something. Two." Layla took a slow breath. Delgado studied her face for a moment, then frowned as if something about her seemed familiar. "Ma'am, can I see some ID?" Layla handed it over silently. Her card gleamed under the lobby light. "Layla Thompson." Delgado blinked. The name struck a faint memory, a face he'd seen in a business magazine months ago. But before he could speak, Ryan interrupted. "You see? Probably stolen too." Cameras flashed. Phones were raised. Guests murmured, torn between disbelief and amusement. Layla stood still, centered in the chaos, her dignity untouchable. She could have revealed everything right then, her ownership, her power, the billion-dollar truth. But she didn't. Not yet. She let them continue, each word, each insult, sealing their fate. The officer finished his check, eyes shifting between them. "Manager," he said slowly, "you might want to look at this again." But Ryan wasn't listening. He was too busy pointing at the door, shouting for her to leave. Jasmine's live stream crossed 8,000 viewers. Malik's phone caught every frame, and somewhere in the rising noise. Layla finally spoke again, her voice low and even, the calm before the storm. "All right then," she said, her eyes locked on Ryan's. "If you want to see who really belongs here, stay right where you are." The lobby went quiet. The air changed. And for the first time that night, Ryan Mitchell felt something he hadn't felt in years, the faint, cold edge of fear. Ryan Mitchell's voice still echoed in the marble lobby when the first wave of chaos began. He didn't know it yet. But the moment he raised his voice at that woman, he'd set in motion something far bigger than a customer dispute. The Empire Lux Hotel was built on luxury and image, and tonight, both would crumble in front of thousands of strangers watching from their phones. It started small, just whispers among guests. But those whispers were turning into murmurs into outrage, as Layla Thompson stood still, her calm presence cutting through the noise. Behind her quiet eyes was strategy. She'd spent years learning that the most powerful response to arrogance was composure. Across the lobby, Jasmine Lee's live stream had just crossed 9,000 viewers. Comments flooded the screen. "Who is she? Why are they treating her like that? This is disgusting." Within minutes, it was 10,000. Jasmine whispered to her camera. "Y'all, the manager just called the police on this woman for trying to check in. She hasn't done anything wrong." Phones were out everywhere now. red recording lights glowing in the corners of the room. Malik Carter, the businessman from Atlanta, stood closer to the counter. His jaw was tight, his tone low but steady. "Sir, you're way out of line," he said to Ryan. "You can't just treat people like that." Ryan turned sharply, sneering. "Stay out of it, or I'll have you removed too." Malik's voice didn't rise. "You can't remove me from a hotel I paid for. Man, you're not God." The tension thickened. Isabel Morales stepped forward, trying to regain control, but her voice trembled. "Everyone, please calm down," she said, glancing nervously between the cameras. "This is a misunderstanding." Layla stood silent, letting them dig deeper. The truth always revealed itself fastest when people thought no one was watching. And tonight, the whole world was. Ryan's face had turned red. He grabbed the phone on the counter and called again for security. "Get up here now," he barked. "I've got two of them trying to cause trouble." His tone made them sound like a warning, not people. When the guard finally arrived, he was met not by a fight, but by a wall of smartphones and a crowd buzzing with disbelief. "You're making a mistake," Malik said again, steady, measured, not moving an inch. Ryan took one step forward, shoving Malik's shoulder hard enough to make him stumble back. The crowd gasped. A phone hit the floor and shattered. Malik's phone, his recording gone in an instant. The sound of glass cracking against marble silenced the room. For a brief moment, no one breathed. Layla's smartwatch blinked red. She had caught every second. The tension snapped. "Oh my God, he just shoved him!" Jasmine shouted into her live stream. "This is insane!" The viewer count shot up to 15,000. Someone yelled for the manager to stop. Someone else shouted to call corporate. Ryan was sweating now, his arrogance beginning to crack. He could feel his authority slipping, yet he couldn't stop himself. He pointed again at Layla. "I said she's not a guest here. I don't care what she says." Isabel tried to pull him back, whispering, "Ryan, stop. The cameras are everywhere." But he shrugged her off. "Let them film. I've got nothing to hide." His words, reckless and loud, sealed his fate. Officer Delgado stood nearby, arms crossed, watching closely. His partner had arrived by then, and the two exchanged uneasy glances. Delgado's instincts were screaming that something wasn't right. He had seen the way Layla stood, unshaken, composed, even dignified, like someone who wasn't used to being dismissed. He approached her quietly. "Ma'am," he said, lowering his voice, "I need to confirm your reservation. May I see your phone?" Layla nodded, opened her email, and handed it to him. On the screen glowed the confirmation: Empire Lux Executive Suite. Thompson. Delgado read it twice, his brows lifting slightly. "Manager," he said firmly. "She's got a valid booking." Ryan laughed without humor. "Yeah, sure she does. Anybody can fake an email these days." Delgado straightened. "You called us for a scammer, and I'm not seeing one." Ryan ignored him. "You don't know these people. They fake everything. Trust me, I've seen it before." That sentence, "You don't know these people," came out too clearly, too sharp, and every person filming heard it within seconds. Jasmine's audience hit 20,000. Comments poured in. "These people? Oh, it's that kind of hotel." Tagging news outlets right now. The Empire Lux name was trending, and the night wasn't even over. Isabel's hands trembled. She wasn't a bad person, not truly, but she had spent years trying to blend into elite circles, agreeing with voices like Ryan's just to feel safe. Yet tonight, surrounded by strangers filming, that safety vanished. She leaned toward him, whispering, "Ryan, stop talking. Please, you're destroying everything." But he didn't listen. He turned back to Layla, rage clouding reason. "You think you can walk in here dressed like that, waving a fake card, and I'm supposed to believe you're some big shot?" Not tonight. Layla finally spoke, her tone soft but powerful enough to quiet the room. I didn't ask you to believe me. I asked you to do your job. That sentence landed heavier than any insult. The officer beside Delgado shifted, glancing at her with new respect. Ma'am, if you'll come with me, he said gently. We'll sort this out. Ryan tried to interject. No, she's not going anywhere until... But Delgado cut him off. Until what? You humiliate her more? The room went still. Cameras caught everything. His badge, his calm voice, her quiet strength, Ryan's trembling anger. Jasmine's live count reached 25,000. A moment later, Malik retrieved his cracked phone, his voice breaking through the silence. You can replace a phone, he said quietly, but you can't replace respect. It was the kind of line that stuck. Viewers began sharing it instantly. You can replace a phone, but not respect. It became the quote of the night. The officer turned back to Layla. Ma'am, you're free to stay as long as you wish. I see no reason for removal. Ryan's last grip on control broke. You're making a mistake. Officer, this woman is lying. But Delgado's patience had run out. The only liar I see is the man who called us here for nothing. Ryan's face turned white. Layla didn't move. She simply looked at him. Then at Isabel and Sophia. You still think you know who I am? She asked quietly. No one answered. Jasmine's live stream hit 30,000 viewers. Ryan's phone buzzed. A message from the regional manager, Karen Walsh. Ryan, what's happening? Social media is exploding. Stop talking immediately. But it was too late. The hotel's reputation was bleeding in real time. Ryan's hands shook as he turned to Isabel. Get her out, he muttered. But Isabel couldn't move. She knew this was no longer about a guest. It was about everything they had ignored for too long. The security guard stepped back, uncertain. Guests whispered. Someone clapped once, not mocking, but approving. Then, another. The tension cracked. Layla glanced around the room, her gaze calm, patient, almost sad. You called me a scammer, she said softly, but I came here to find out if this place still remembers what service means. No one spoke. The only sound left was the faint hum of the chandelier, swaying slightly as if the building itself was listening. Ryan straightened his suit. Pretending control he didn't have. Whatever. Let's just finish this. He didn't know it yet, but that was the last order he'd ever give at Empire Lux. The lobby had gone from a murmur to a storm. Phones were everywhere now, lights flashing, comments pouring in. Jasmine Lee's live stream crossing 30,000 viewers in minutes. The scene looked less like a hotel and more like a courtroom, with the world watching from behind tiny screens. Ryan Mitchell stood behind the counter, his face pale but his pride burning hotter than ever. He still believed he was in control, still thought the woman in front of him was just another guest he could intimidate, but across from him, standing calm amid the chaos. Layla Thompson was about to change everything. She didn't raise her voice, didn't flinch. She simply reached into her satchel, pulled out her iPad, and tapped the screen. The lobby's massive smart display, normally used to show room rates and event promotions, flickered suddenly. The screen lit up with numbers, graphs, and names that none of them expected to see. My name, she began quietly, her tone cutting through the noise, is Layla Thompson, and I own this hotel. The words hit like a thunderclap. Every conversation stopped. The officers froze mid-step. Ryan's mouth fell open, a laugh almost escaping before dying in his throat. What did you just say? He asked, disbelief trembling behind his voice. Layla turned the iPad toward him, her company logo glowing clear and sharp. Thompson Ventures, Empire Lux Holdings, 72% ownership. Gasps spread through the lobby. Malik Carter smiled faintly. Crossing his arms, Jasmine Lee whispered into her phone. "Oh my God, she's the CEO." Her comment section exploded instantly. "What? She owns it? This is wild." Viewers climbed past 40,000. Layla walked slowly toward the counter, her presence commanding without force. "You see," she said softly, "I bought this chain 8 months ago, after reading far too many reports just like this one. Tonight, I came to see if the problem was real. Unfortunately for you, it is." Ryan's legs wavered, his arrogance draining like color from his face. "You're lying," he stammered. "This is some kind of trick. You forged that." Layla didn't blink. "Officer Delgado, would you please confirm my ID?" The officer stepped forward, took the iPad, and matched it against the ID card he had already verified earlier. His voice carried calm authority. "It's real," he said simply. "She's who she says she is." The silence that followed was heavy, the kind of silence that crushed excuses before they could form. Isabel Morales's hand flew to her mouth. Sofia Rivera looked like she might cry. The same people who had laughed minutes ago were now too stunned to move. Layla swiped to the next screen. "Here's what I found during my audit," she said, her tone professional but laced with quiet disappointment. Revenue down 31%, occupancy at 58, far below the industry standard of 87, and 28 guest complaints filed under your name, Mr. Mitchell. She looked at him squarely. 21 under yours, Ms. Morales. Every one of them ignored. The large screen behind her displayed each statistic in real time. Neat, corporate, undeniable. "These are not just numbers," she continued. "They are people, guests who were disrespected, employees who were silenced. You didn't just hurt our image, you broke the trust this brand was built on." The weight of her words pressed on everyone in the room. Ryan tried to speak, his voice trembling. You can't just walk in here dressed like that, pretending to be." Layla interrupted softly. "Pretending? Or testing?" She leaned closer. "You didn't see me as a person. Ryan, you saw me as a threat to your comfort. That's why you failed this test before it even began," the crowd murmured, some clapping quietly, others recording every second. Ryan's mind raced, searching for a way out, but each word he spoke dug him deeper. "You set me up," he muttered. "This is entrapment." Layla shook her head. "This is accountability." She turned to Isabel. "And you, Ms. Morales, you knew this behavior was wrong, yet you let it happen. Why?" Isabel's eyes filled with tears. I just didn't want to lose my job," she whispered. "I was trying to fit in." Layla's voice softened slightly. "At what cost?" Isabel had no answer. The air felt thick, charged with the weight of truth. Layla tapped her iPad again, revealing another document, an internal report signed by Ryan himself, hiding previous complaints. "Here's the part that concerns me most," she said. "You didn't just ignore the complaints, you covered them. Do you remember firing a security guard named Darius Brooks?" Ryan blinked, confused. "He was insubordinate," he blurted. "He tried to accuse me of racism." "He accused you of harassment," Layla corrected. And he was right. The lobby doors opened suddenly. Every head turned. Darius Brooks stepped inside. Tall, calm, wearing his old uniform jacket. He held a folder in his hand. "Evening," he said, walking forward. "Sorry to interrupt. Ms. Thompson, I thought you might want this." He handed her the folder, printed copies of the emails Ryan had deleted, all time-stamped, all forwarded to corporate before his termination. Layla took them, looked at Ryan, then back at the crowd. "Thank you, Darius," she said. "You may want to stay. I believe justice deserves witnesses." The entire room erupted in whispers. Jasmine whispered into her phone. "This is unbelievable. He tried to cover everything up." The comments on her live feed scrolled faster than she could read. Hashtag Empire Lux. Racism had officially begun trending. 45,000, 50, 60. Layla set the folder on the counter, her composure unbroken. "Mr. Mitchell," she said quietly, "you've had 28 formal complaints and countless warnings. You humiliated guests, disrespected staff, and tonight, you crossed the final line. You're suspended, effective immediately, pending full investigation." Ryan's face turned red. "You can't fire me in front of everyone." "You're right," she said calmly. "You don't deserve privacy for what you did." He took a step forward, shouting, "You're destroying my life." "You destroyed your own," she replied, her voice still even. "The moment you decided to treat human beings as less than you." Isabel looked at her helplessly. "What about me?" she asked softly. "You can resign," Layla said, "or stay for investigation. Your choice will say everything." Isabel's shoulders slumped. "I'll resign," she whispered. Sophia Rivera, trembling, stepped forward. "Ms. Thompson, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have laughed. I was scared." Layla studied her for a moment. "You're young," she said gently. "You can learn, but you will be on probation for 6 months. Earn your place the right way." Sophia nodded, tears rolling down her face, behind them. The massive screen showed another update. Stock drop, minus 12% after viral scandal. Malik turned to Jasmine and whispered, "She's turning this place upside down." "No," Jasmine replied softly, still filming. "She's turning it right side up." Layla looked around the lobby one last time, her gaze sweeping across the faces, guilty, fearful, curious. "This was never about anger," she said slowly. "It's about truth. And sometimes, truth costs more than money." Her words lingered in the air like a quiet anthem. Then she turned back to Ryan, who was shaking his head, muttering to himself. "This isn't over," he hissed. Layla met his eyes calmly. "For you, it is." And with that, she signaled to Officer Delgado, "Please escort Mr. Mitchell out. I'll handle the rest." As the officers led him away, the crowd parted in silence. Jasmine's camera caught the moment perfectly. The disgraced manager walking past the woman he had tried to humiliate, her calm gaze following him like judgment itself. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance, blending with the sound of applause rising slowly from the guests. And in that moment, it was clear. This was more than a confrontation. It was the beginning of a reckoning. The marble lobby, once a place of quiet luxury, now felt like a stage for justice. Every chandelier gleam reflected the faces of witnesses, guests, officers, staff, and the world watching live. Ryan Mitchell had been escorted out minutes earlier, his angry voice fading into the night like a storm finally spent. But the air still crackled with tension, and Layla Thompson stood in the center of it, unshaken. She didn't shout. She didn't gloat. She simply looked around the lobby she owned and the people who had turned it into a symbol of disgrace. "Let's finish this," she said softly. Her tone wasn't loud, but it carried weight. Officer Delgado stepped closer, staying nearby but no longer as a guard, more as a witness to something bigger than his badge. The smart display behind the front desk glowed again, now showing names, complaint summaries, and response times. Layla had prepared everything. She'd spent months studying reports, interviewing former employees, tracing every ignored message that spoke of bias or mistreatment. Now, the truth stood in numbers, not emotions. "This isn't about one night," she began, her voice steady. "It's about a pattern. A culture that made people like Mr. Mitchell think they could treat guests like criminals and get away with it." Her words settled heavy in the air. The crowd was silent, waiting. Isabel Morales stood stiff behind the counter, her resignation still half-written on the tablet in front of her. Sofia Rivera stood beside her, shaking slightly, tears streaking her cheeks. Darius Brooks remained near the entrance, arms folded, watching everything unfold with the calm of someone who had already lived the consequences of speaking up once before. Malik Carter moved closer, nodding quietly as if giving his approval. Jasmine Lee's camera light followed Layla's every movement, her live stream now nearing 70,000 viewers. "Let's talk about accountability," Layla continued. "When you work in hospitality, you represent respect itself. It doesn't matter who walks through that door, rich, poor, white, black, immigrant, or executive. Respect is the currency of this business. And tonight, it was bankrupt." She turned toward Isabel. "You knew Ryan's behavior was wrong. You saw it many times. Why didn't you stop it?" Isabel's lips trembled. "I tried," she whispered. "But he was my boss. Every time I questioned him, he'd threaten my job." Layla nodded slowly, her tone not cruel but firm. "And yet, silence becomes approval. You might not have shouted like he did, but you let his word stand. That's how injustice survives, not just through the loud, but through the quiet." Isabel's tears fell freely now. She didn't try to defend herself. She simply looked down, her confidence gone. Sophia stepped forward. "Please, Miss Thompson," she said, her voice cracking. "I was wrong. I laughed because I was nervous. I didn't want them to think I was weak." Layla studied her face, young, frightened, and sincere. "You are not weak," she said gently. "You're learning. But learning means facing the harm you caused. You will remain employed under supervision, 6-month probation, and mandatory bias training. Earn your redemption." Sophia nodded quickly, sobbing in relief. The audience murmured softly. Many guests filmed, moved by how calm and precise this reckoning was. Layla turned to the larger screen again. "Now," she said, "these are the financial results of behavior like this." The screen changed to a spreadsheet. Profits, losses, and metrics since the management team took over. Revenue dropped from 2.1 million to 1.4. Occupancy fell to 58%. Staff turnover increased by 41. And guest satisfaction? She paused, looking at the number. 38%. That's not a company problem. That's a people problem. The data hit harder than any insult. The officers watching exchanged glances. Even guests in the back whispered in disbelief. "I invested in this company because I believed it could represent excellence," she said, her voice carrying a quiet ache. "But what I see here is entitlement dressed as professionalism. That ends tonight." She walked to the counter, placed her iPad down, and looked directly at Isabel and Sophia. "I'm giving you 3 choices," she said. "Resign voluntarily and accept responsibility. Stay for an internal investigation and risk public exposure, or face legal consequences for mismanagement and discrimination." Isabel's face crumpled. "I'll resign," she whispered, her voice hollow. "Effective immediately." "Understood," Layla replied. "You will still be part of an ongoing inquiry. I'm also filing a personal defamation and negligence claim. 500,000 each. You hurt this brand, and you hurt people." Isabel nodded weakly. There was no argument left in her. Sophia sobbed quietly beside her. Officer Delgado cleared his throat softly. "Ma'am, if I may," he said. "I've seen a lot of things in this city, but I've never seen accountability like this in public. You have my respect." Layla offered a faint smile. "Thank you. Officer, it's not about punishment. It's about balance." Malik Carter clapped once, slow and deliberate. The sound echoed. "That's how you handle power," he said aloud. Guests began applauding too, some hesitant, others proud. Jasmine's camera caught every second. Her live viewers surged past 80,000. Comments flew across the screen. This is history. She's a real leader. Empire Lux will never be the same. Layla held up her hand for silence. This isn't just my victory, she said. It belongs to every person who ever walked into a lobby and felt small because of someone else's ignorance. The applause quieted into thoughtful stillness. Layla continued. From this moment forward, the Empire Lux name will mean something again. I'm launching a new division, the Equity First Initiative, a system-wide reform that will track, report, and resolve any form of discrimination or bias within 24 hours. There will be a digital reporting app, direct oversight by an independent review board, and mandatory anti-bias training for all staff, from interns to executives. The crowd erupted again, this time with genuine support. The officers even smiled. Sophia covered her face, whispering thank you over and over. Malik raised his phone to capture the scene. Ladies and gentlemen, he said softly to the viewers on his own live stream, this is how real change begins. Layla turned back to the guests. I know some of you came here tonight for peace, not spectacle, but your witness matters. If you've ever been mistreated here, or anywhere, speak now. I will listen. For a moment, the room hesitated. Then a woman near the elevators raised her hand. I stayed here last month, she said, trembling slightly. They downgraded my room without reason after seeing my family. I complained, but no one answered. Layla nodded. You'll be refunded in full, she said calmly, and you'll receive a week's complimentary stay under the new management. Thank you for your courage. The woman smiled through tears. A man followed. They told me I didn't look like someone who could afford a suite, he said. That was Ryan. You'll be contacted tomorrow. Layla replied. We're correcting every wrong. Phones captured it all. Confession after confession. Proof that this wasn't an isolated event, but a culture of quiet cruelty that had thrived too long. The viewer count passed 90,000. Reporters were already tagging national outlets. Empire Lux wasn't just a trending scandal, it was becoming a movement. Layla waited for the last guest to finish, then spoke once more. This, she said, is not revenge, it's repair, because justice, when done right, doesn't destroy, it rebuilds. She turned to Darius. You're reinstated as head of guest relations, effective immediately. You stood for what's right before anyone else did. Darius straightened, his eyes bright. Thank you. Ms. Thompson, I won't let you down. You already didn't, she said with a small smile. The applause swelled again, now unified, proud, cathartic. Jasmine ended her live stream with tears in her voice, saying, Ladies and gentlemen, you just watched history happen. And as Layla stood there, calm, resolute, and radiant under the chandelier light, it was clear to everyone present that the night wasn't just about one hotel, one injustice, or one firing. It was about a shift in power. The moment truth stopped knocking and walked straight through the front door. By morning, the videos had reached every corner of the country. News anchors replayed the footage on loop. The cards slammed to the floor. The calm reveal, the firings, the applause. Empire Lux Hotel scandal was now a national headline, but inside the walls of Thompson Ventures' Manhattan headquarters. Layla Thompson sat quietly in her glass-walled office, watching the sunrise reflect against the skyline. She wasn't celebrating. She was calculating. The public loved the drama, but she knew the harder part had just begun. Rebuilding a company's soul. Her assistant entered softly, handing her the latest reports. Revenue dipped another 4% overnight, he said, but engagement's through the roof. People want to see what you'll do next. Layla nodded, eyes on the numbers. They don't just want a story. she said. They want proof of change. She picked up her phone and dialed Karen Walsh, the regional manager who had messaged Ryan during the chaos. Karen's voice was shaky when she answered. Ms. Thompson, I didn't know what was happening until it was too late. Layla didn't raise her voice. You knew enough to send him a message, she said calmly. You saw the complaints. Karen, you ignored them. Silence filled the line. I'm placing you on administrative leave, Layla continued. An internal review will determine if you stay. I won't tolerate negligence at any level. Karen tried to respond, but Layla had already moved on. She called James Liu, the vice president of operations, and Michelle Gupta, the executive VP. Within an hour, the top floor was filled with executives, anxious faces behind polished smiles. Ladies and gentlemen, Layla began, standing at the head of the table. The incident at Empire Lux wasn't an isolated event. It was the symptom of a sickness we've ignored. Discrimination doesn't start at the front desk. It starts in leadership. No one spoke. She pressed a button on the screen, showing a map of all 312 Empire Lux properties. Red dots marked sites with unresolved complaints. 62 reports in one location, 34 in another, 27 across Florida alone, she said. We talk about hospitality, yet we've built a hierarchy that forgets humanity. Michelle cleared her throat. Layla, the board's concerned about the financial fallout. We've lost 12% of market value in 48 hours. Layla turned toward her, unflinching. Then let's earn it back with integrity. Profits can recover. Reputation doesn't get a second chance. The room went still. She outlined her new plan. The Equity First Initiative. It would launch immediately. A mobile app allowing guests and employees to report discrimination directly to corporate. Mandatory anti-bias training led by the NAACP. And a full audit of hiring and promotion practices. A few executives shifted uncomfortably. One muttered, "That's going to cost millions." Layla heard it. "It's costing us more right now," she said firmly. "In lawsuits, in public trust, in humanity." She paused, scanning their faces. "If you're here only for profits, resign now. If you're here to fix what we broke, stay and prove it." No one moved. That was enough. She dismissed the meeting, then sat alone for a moment, hands folded, the weight of it all pressed heavy. Not the scandal, but the memories it stirred. Her mother, Rosa, once fired from a hotel maid job for talking back when a guest insulted her. Layla could still remember her mother's trembling hands that night, whispering, "One day, baby, you'll make them listen." Now. She finally had. Later that afternoon, she returned to the Empire Lux Hotel. Not in disguise this time, but as herself. The crowd waiting outside erupted in cheers as she walked through the front doors flanked by cameras. "Ms. Thompson!" reporters shouted. "Do you plan to sue the former staff? What changes are coming? Did you plan this undercover mission from the start?" Layla stopped briefly, her tone measured. This wasn't about a show. It was about truth, and truth, once seen, can't be unseen. Inside, the same marble lobby felt different, not cold, not elitist, but aware. Guests clapped quietly as she passed. Darius Brooks, now reinstated as head of guest relations, met her at the elevator. "Welcome back, Mrs. Thompson," he said with a proud smile. "Everything's already changing." She nodded. "Good. Let's make sure it never goes back." Upstairs, in the executive suite, a new meeting was underway with training consultants from the NAACP, HR directors, and internal investigators. They reviewed case after case, stories buried by managers who feared losing bonuses or image points. Layla listened to every detail. "No more hidden files," she said. "No more unreported bias. Every incident gets documented, investigated, and resolved within 24 hours. If someone retaliates against a whistleblower, They'll be terminated on the spot. The consultants nodded, impressed by her decisiveness. As the meeting ended, Sofia Rivera knocked timidly and stepped in, holding a small notebook. "Ms. Thompson," she said, I wanted to thank you for giving me another chance." Layla looked up from her papers. "Have you started your training?" "Yes, ma'am. I finished the first module last night. I didn't realize how much I didn't know. I'm ashamed." "Good," Layla said softly. "Shame is a teacher when you face it." Sofia's eyes welled with tears. "I won't waste this chance." "Then don't," Layla replied, and nodded toward the door. "Make sure your story becomes the reason someone else learns sooner." As Sofia left, Darius entered again, holding a folder marked Guest Feedback. "You'll want to see this," he said. Inside were hundreds of messages from around the world, guests praising Layla's courage, families sharing their own experiences of discrimination, even rival companies promising to adopt her reforms. But there were also letters from Ryan Mitchell and Isabel Morales. Handwritten, humble, remorseful. Ryan's words were brief. "I lost everything, and I deserved it. But if there's a way to rebuild, I'll take it." Isabel's letter was longer. "I've left my marriage, my city, my pride. I want to learn, to help others avoid my mistakes." Layla read them both in silence, then said quietly, "Everyone deserves a second chance, after they face the first consequence." Darius smiled faintly. "You really believe they can change?" "I believe people can," she said. "Systems won't, unless we force them to." By evening, Jasmine Lee's live stream returned to the lobby, broadcasting Layla's first public press event since the scandal. Reporters filled the space, cameras pointed upward at the glowing gold sign that now read, "Empire Lux, Equity First Certified." Layla stood at the podium, dressed in a sleek navy suit, calm as ever. "What happened here," she said, "was painful. But pain reveals truth, and truth gives us the power to rebuild. This hotel isn't a symbol of shame anymore. It's a lesson in change." Applause filled the room. "We will partner with the NAACP, the Urban League, and universities across the country to train future hospitality leaders in fairness, empathy, and accountability. Every dollar lost will come back, not because of damage control, but because of dignity restored." Cameras flashed. Darius stood at the back, proud. Sofia watched from the side, tears in her eyes. Jasmine's audience surpassed 100,000 in homes across America. People nodded, some smiling, others crying quietly. It wasn't just a scandal anymore. It was redemption in real time. After the event, Layla returned to her office, the city lights painting gold reflections across the floor. She sat alone for a while, staring at a framed photo of her mother in her old maid uniform. "We did it. Mom," she whispered. Then her phone buzzed. A message from Michelle Gupta. "Board approved your initiative unanimously. Congratulations." Layla smiled faintly. It wasn't triumph she felt. It was peace, the kind that comes only when justice doesn't need applause. 4 months later, the Empire Lux Hotel didn't look or feel the same. The marbles still gleamed, the chandeliers still sparkled, but the air carried something new. Warmth. Guests smiled at staff, and staff smiled back, not out of duty, but out of pride. The lobby that once echoed with arrogance now hummed with purpose. Behind the front desk stood Sofia Rivera, posture straight, voice confident, greeting guests by name. Her probation was over, and her transformation was real. Across the lobby, Darius Brooks walked with a clipboard and a quiet smile. Now Director of Guest Relations, ensuring that every corner of the hotel reflected respect. The Equity First initiative had changed everything. Complaints had dropped by 80%. Guest satisfaction rose to 91, and for the first time in years, Empire Lux had become a model of inclusion. Financially, it was thriving. Occupancy at 89%, revenue up 42% since the scandal. But for Layla Thompson, those numbers weren't the victory. The real triumph was in what couldn't be measured. The people who had learned, the voices now being heard. On a bright spring afternoon, she returned to the hotel unannounced. Unlike that night months ago, her arrival was met not with suspicion, but with genuine smiles. "Good afternoon, Miss Thompson," Sophia said proudly. "Your suite is ready." Layla smiled. "No need for a suite today. I came for the staff meeting." Upstairs, in the same conference room where fear had once ruled, dozens of employees sat together. Housekeepers, servers, managers, even corporate executives. On the wall behind them hung a gold plaque engraved with the words, "Equity first. Integrity in action." Layla stood at the front. No slides, no screens. "When this began," she said gently, "I didn't want revenge. I wanted reform. And you all made it possible. You chose courage over comfort. You chose people over profit." The room was quiet, the kind of silence that comes not from fear but from respect. She continued, "We now lead 912 hotels under this standard. What started with pain has become progress. Harvard is publishing a case study on this transformation next month. But I want you to remember something. We didn't do this for headlines. We did it because every human being deserves dignity." Applause rose, soft but full of emotion. Darius nodded proudly. "Ma'am," he said, "I think your mother would be proud." Layla's expression softened. "She'd remind me that respect isn't a slogan, it's a habit." The room smiled. Later, she walked through the hallways with Sophia beside her. "You've grown," Layla said quietly. "How does it feel?" Sophia exhaled deeply. "Different. I wake up knowing I'm part of something that matters. I used to think power came from being above people. Now I know it comes from standing beside them." Layla nodded, her heart full. "Keep that. It'll carry you farther than any title." Downstairs, Malik Carter waited in the lobby with Jasmine Lee. Now working as director of public relations for the chain, they greeted Layla warmly. Jasmine grinned. "You're trending again, but this time, for the right reasons. The video of that family reunion event last week hit 2 million views." Layla chuckled softly. "Let's hope they're sharing the lessons, not just the luxury." Jasmine's smile faded into sincerity. "They are. You've started something that's spreading beyond hotels. Other companies are adopting your model. They're calling it the Thompson Standard." Layla blinked, humbled. "It's not about me," she said. "It's about what's possible when you refuse to stay silent." That evening, she stood on the rooftop terrace, watching the sun melt behind the skyline. The city pulsed with energy, but her thoughts were still. She remembered that first night, the insults, the humiliation, the disbelief in their eyes, and now, standing under the same sky. She realized that justice wasn't about punishing the past. It was about building a future where such moments could never happen again. Her phone buzzed. A message from Isabel Morales. "Ms. Thompson, I'm speaking at a youth leadership event tonight about accountability. Thank you for giving me the push I needed to change." Layla smiled faintly. Another message came moments later from Ryan Mitchell. "I've been attending bias rehabilitation classes and volunteering at a shelter. I'm not asking for forgiveness. Just wanted you to know I'm trying." Layla put her phone down, the wind brushing her face. Forgiveness wasn't something she handed out easily, but knowing they were learning was enough. Down below, the lights of the city shimmered like quiet applause. She whispered to herself, "Equity isn't given. It's built, one decision at a time, when she finally turned to leave. She paused at the golden plaque near the elevator, the same one that bore her initiative's name. Her reflection glimmered on its surface, faint but resolute. For the first time in a long while, Layla didn't feel like the woman who had to fight for respect. She felt like the woman who had taught others what it truly meant. And as she stepped into the elevator, she smiled. Not for the cameras, not for the numbers, but for the promise that the Empire Lux Hotel, once a monument of exclusion, was now a beacon of what change could look like when courage meets compassion. The following month, the Empire Lux Hotel stood not just as a symbol of luxury, but as a monument of transformation. Its story had reached classrooms, conferences, and boardrooms across the nation. Networks called it the Empire Reform. Harvard titled its business case, Leadership Through Equity. And guests from every background came not just for the comfort, but for what it represented. Respect reborn. On a calm Sunday morning, sunlight streamed through the glass doors as staff prepared for a special ceremony. A new plaque was being unveiled in the lobby, one that would honor the journey that had changed them all. Employees stood in a semicircle, from housekeepers to executives, faces bright with pride. Cameras rolled, reporters gathered, but the atmosphere felt intimate, sacred. When Layla Thompson walked in, the room erupted in applause. She smiled softly, her presence quiet but commanding, wearing a simple white suit that reflected both purity and purpose. "Please," she said gently, "no applause. Today isn't about me. It's about all of us." The room fell silent. She walked to the front, stopping beside the golden plaque draped in a velvet cover. Her voice, steady and full of grace, carried through the lobby. 4 months ago, this lobby echoed with something ugly: humiliation, bias, and silence. But today, it carries something far greater: redemption. What began as pain became a promise, and that promise brought us here. She nodded toward Darius, who stood proudly near the front desk. "To those who stood for what's right when no one else did, you gave this place its soul back." Then she looked toward Sophia, who wiped a tear. "To those who learned, grew, and chose to be better, you proved that growth is possible when humility leads the way." She took a breath, emotion tightening her throat for a moment. "And to everyone here, remember that fairness is not a policy, it's a practice. Every guest who walks through that door deserves to feel seen, not sized up." The audience nodded, deeply moved. Jasmine Lee, now leading media relations, streamed the event live. Over 200,000 people watched online as Layla reached for the velvet cloth. "This plaque," she said, "is not a trophy, it's a reminder that integrity costs something, but it pays forever." She pulled the cover away, revealing the engraved words, "The Equity First Initiative, founded on truth, built on respect." Applause filled the air again, not the loud, chaotic kind, but the soft, sustained kind that comes from the heart. Cameras flashed, but Layla's focus stayed on the staff, the people who made it all real. Officer Delgado, invited as an honored guest, stood at the back, tipping his hat. "Proud of you all," he said quietly. A journalist asked Layla what she planned next. She smiled, her answer calm and confident. "Change doesn't end with one building," she said. "We've begun a movement. Hospitality with humanity. Our next goal is to expand this model to every brand we own, then across the industry. This isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of something bigger." After the ceremony, she stepped outside for a moment, needing air. The city was alive with sound, horns, laughter, footsteps, but her mind wandered to the past. She thought of her mother cleaning hotel rooms in silence, of the nights they spent dreaming of a world where dignity wasn't earned, but expected. Her mother's voice echoed in memory. One day, baby, make them see you. And now, not only had they seen her, they had learned from her. Malik Carter approached, his phone in hand. "You're trending again," he said with a grin. "But this time, it's not outrage, it's admiration. People are calling you the face of modern leadership." Layla laughed softly. "Let's hope they remember the message, not the face." Malik nodded. "They will. You changed the way people think about power, inside." Guests continued to take photos of the plaque, reading its message, whispering its story to their children. One elderly woman approached Layla, her voice trembling. "My daughter works in one of your hotels now. She says she finally feels safe being herself." "Thank you." Layla placed a hand over the woman's. "Tell her to keep shining. That's all the thanks I need." As afternoon light poured across the lobby, she walked to the bar where Darius and Sophia were finishing up staff notes. "How's the team?" she asked. Darius smiled. "Stronger than ever. We had a family of 4 check in last night. The mother told me she came here because she saw what this hotel stands for." Layla's eyes softened. "That's the goal," she said quietly. "To make people feel safe before they even arrive," Sophia added. "I used to think I worked in a hotel. Now I realize I work in hope." Layla looked at her, touched by the honesty. "Never lose that feeling," she said. The next day, media outlets published stories titled "The Empire Lux Turnaround." Stock prices had risen, investor confidence soared, and the brand's global expansion plan, once halted by scandal, was now leading industry discussions on equity-driven reform. Yet Layla didn't seek credit or headlines. That night, back in her office, she recorded a short video. Simple lighting, no makeup, no script. "If you're watching this," she said softly, "remember, equity isn't a trend. It's a commitment. And leadership isn't about being in charge. It's about caring enough to change what isn't right." She paused, eyes steady on the camera. "If this story moved you, share yours, because the fight for fairness doesn't end with applause. It continues with action." She smiled faintly, the kind of smile that carries peace, not pride. Equity is built, one story at a time. Now it's your turn. When she ended the recording, she sat in silence, looking out over the city that had once judged her, now inspired by her. Down below, the lights of Empire Lux glowed like a promise that from injustice, grace could rise, that from humiliation, hope could grow, and that from one woman's quiet courage, an entire system could finally learn what respect truly means. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Together, let's stand for respect, equality, and change, one story at a time.